Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to Celebrity Natal Charts. Today, we're going to be looking at the natal chart of Amy Poehler from Saturday Night Live. And yesterday, I was analyzing Jennifer Coolidge's chart, which I have a lot to say about that, but I forgot a lot of what I wanted to recap on. But randomly, I kept mentioning Pee Wee Herman, and I couldn't remember his something about what do you call it, your reputation and having a salacious reputation versus having a virtuous reputation or whatever it may be. I couldn't remember his name, but his name is Paul Rubens, and synchronistically enough, Paul Rubens is also a Virgo. So that's something that they have in common. Paul Rubens, Jennifer Coolidge, Dave Chappelle, Amy Poehler, all Virgos. But this is about Amy Poehler, who's also from Massachusetts. Jennifer Coolidge is from Boston. She's from Newton, Massachusetts, United States. September 16th, 1971, the year of the pig at 4:33 p.m. Birth time accuracy excellent. Amy Meredith Poehler, born September 16th, 1971, is an American actress, comedian, voice artist, producer, and writer raised in Burlington, Massachusetts. She graduated from Boston College in 1993 and moved to Chicago, Illinois to study improv at Second City and Improv Olympic. In 1996, she moved to New York City after becoming part of the improvisational comedy troupe Upright Citizen Brigade, which later developed into a television show that aired on Comedy Central for 3 seasons. She is also an 8-time Emmy Award-winning nominee. Didn't know any of that. I only know her from Saturday Night Live, and she has a new podcast. So just to put in connection with, Virgo being ruled by Mercury, and Virgo being ruled by Mercury, Dave Chappelle being an awesome comedian, Amy Poehler also great mercurial comedian as well, and she has the rising Aquarius, which some people might say might give her an awkward disposition, or might make her look awkward in some way, shape, or form. So the rising Aquarius does talk about how do you acquire your self-esteem and where does your self-esteem come from, which would say from friends and technology. So her podcast, she brings on her friends. They record the podcast with technology, and that probably makes her feel very self-esteemy and appreciated. She also has Mars in her first house, which talks about aggression, and that she acts like an Aquarius. So although she is a Virgo, like I said, she might be somewhat awkward, or that if you come at her with confrontation, her go-to attack or feeling would be to extend an olive branch of friendship. So if you came up to Amy Poehler and you were you're a jerk, she'd probably try to dissolve the situation in some way. She has a second house in Pisces, which says that spirituality is a really good financial resource for her, or cash cow. So this could be the people that are involved in whatever religion that she's involved in, her church, just spiritual people in general. I like her. I'm a Pisces. So that's that. And then in her third house, she has Aries. So she's from Newton, Massachusetts, third house in Aries, which talks about her childhood environment, the environment which she grew up in. And typically when I see the third house in Aries, I always associate it with growing up in New York, or a big busy city, where you're kind of pushing people out of your way. She also has Chiron here, so Chiron is the wounded healer, meaning that maybe she's able to allow other people to be assertive, or is good at coaching other people at being assertive, but is somewhat meek in her own communications. Or that she grew up near a military base or around politics and the government. As with Jennifer Coolidge, another Virgo from Massachusetts, her third house was in Capricorn, meaning that she was in the business district around a bunch of business people in suits. Her fourth house is in Taurus. So the fourth house does talk about environment, your connection to your mother, maternal energies. So this says to me, even if she didn't, so I don't know about the socioeconomics of Newton, Massachusetts, whether it's a city or a farm. But if it is a farm, it could be a very aggressive, crowded, busy farm, like a suburb. And that her best place to live would be somewhere very like rural and remote, like a actual farm, like what we're all thinking when we hear the word farm. The fourth house in Taurus. It also says that her mother was probably like very warm, nurturing, providing, and probably somewhat wealthy. Yeah, and that's the fourth house. And then so her fifth house, she has Gemini. So the fifth house in Gemini, the fifth house talks about like distractions, limitations, where she also has Saturn, I want to say. Just double check real quick. Yes, fifth house, Gemini, Saturn and Gemini. So she could have had like speech problems, maybe like a speech impediment or stuttering or something like that she had to overcome, which I know a lot of people who get into arts and entertainment are usually trying to overcome some type of thing like that. But then also it talks about, like I said, like the mercurial energies that she's dealing with. So, maybe being funny isn't as easy for her as it is for Dave Chappelle. As I was saying, Dave Chappelle has like a formulaic comedic style. Maybe it's not as easy for her, and she has to try, which God forbid anybody try at anything. Or connecting with people, Gemini, body image, being thin, fitting into Hollywood, having to compare yourself with, other actresses and things like that. We were just simply trying to be funny. I was really delighted to read her, her bio, because the only improv group I know is like the Groundlings, and she's been part of several, which is pretty cool, I think. But anyway, so whatever limitations she experienced around language or around body weight or body image, she's supposed to heal that with the energies of her sixth house, which is in Cancer, which is like maybe going home and crying to her mother about how people are calling her fat. And the sixth house in Cancer does talk about like working around maternal energies, around mothers, like working around being a mother, and finding things like that. I think her and Tina Fey have a movie called Baby's Mama, I want to say, which is like not in her bio at all. Maybe it's not that great. But that's how she's supposed to heal herself. That's what she's supposed to do for work. So if she wasn't, if I was running a daycare and I didn't care, I would probably just put like the Amy Poehler show on you, or probably watching it anyway. And it's like, hey, little kid, if you don't like Amy Poehler, you're about to. I have no idea who her spouse is or if she has children, but she's a seventh house in Leo, meaning that Leo energy would be the best fly-by-night of love affair, relationship, business partnership for her. She also has her moon in Leo. So the moon, I always say, Mars is how you act. I guess it's not your go-to emotion, it's like your go-to action. So like I was saying, like if you came at Amy Poehler with negative energy, she'd probably try to extend an olive branch and find some way to be friends with you. If she's sad or emotional, or they like won't let her into One Oak or some nightclub or restaurant, she's like, I'm famous. So her go-to emotion is to kind of like project her fame or to become famous. So if there's a bunch of like mean, skinny Geminis in her childhood that she went to go cry home to her mother about, she's like, I'll get revenge by being hella famous. And that is her seventh. She's also really good at attracting fame, attention. She's blonde, which, having good blonde hair is a trait of Leo, and maybe makes her emotional, as being in the entertainment industry, losing your hair or not having good hair might be an obstacle. And I was watching something with her on her podcast with that woman, I don't know her name, but she like does a really good Martha Stewart impression about wigs and having like wigs in your glove compartment and things like that, like from Saturday Night Live and other things like that. So that's very important to her, attracting good wigs. And her eighth house, so the house of like wants, wishes, and desires, she has Virgo, where she also has her sun. So it's like she really wants to be a Virgo. She is a Virgo. Way to go. She also has Mercury, which is Virgo's ruling planet, in her 8th house. So, I think that it's like a natural delineation of internet fame where it's like, you want to be funny, that's kind of difficult and offensive. You want to be sexy, that's subjective. Uh, so what, especially in the almost like daily need for content, how can you project content daily and keep it fresh and interesting? You might see like other people I've seen with like Adam Levine and Justin Bieber. I think he already has, but like, and Gwen Stefani, where it's like they want to turn over to the Lord. So like everything they want to do, Bible study, reading the Bible online, prayer groups, prayer circles. With her, it might be astrology or something like that. Which even in this channel, having not necessarily like a full and complete knowledge of astrology, as it is like a discovery, not to say that you're like some type of like person who's incapable of making mistakes or that you know everything. It could be just her discovering, analyzing, and maybe even making fun of the concept of astrology or anything the occulty, astrology, voodoo, whatever. Um, Mercury in Virgo sounds like means that she talks like a Virgo, which is like persistent, annoying, consistent, daily podcast. She has the soul of a Virgo, Sun in Virgo, which annoying, persistent. She also has Venus in Virgo, I want to say. Venus in Virgo. So, like I said, I don't know too much about her relationships, as she's not really like a page 6 type celebrity. But having the Venus in Virgo, which I've known from reading, that Big Blue, the only astrology book you'll ever need, is that Venus and Virgos have a difficult time picking partners and choosing the right people. They pick people wrong. They need a matchmaker. So that's her. She's bad at picking friends, which I mean, like with the Mars and Aquarius, where it's like when people come at her with combative energy, her natural inclination is to befriend them, which seems like not good. A bunch of friends who are like negative and aggressive. And in her 9th house, she has Libra, which I also see that she has, I want to say, Uranus and Pluto. Right? Uranus. Where is Uranus? Libra. And Pluto. Oh, Pluto and Virgo. My bad. Pluto and Virgo. So Pluto and Virgo. Pluto, Venus, Pluto, Mercury, Venus, and her Sun all in Virgo. Pluto being the sign, I want to say, of aesthetics, also change, also death. Which might not come to a surprise, like having Pluto in Virgo, it's like your health and from work, you're maybe like overworking yourself or working herself to death might be the reason why she passes, which kind of seems vague, but I think that's better. It's better to have a vague cause of death than a pinpointed one. But she has a Uranus in Libra, meaning that Libras have caused somewhat like boundlessness in her life and opened a lot of doors, revolutionized her life, which could be like a singer or some type of comedian. Even like being on Saturday Night Live and having some type of singer or guest host give her like more fame and more popularity. And then, so that's her 7th house, her 8th house, her 9th house, and then she's a 10th house in Scorpio. Right? Doing this right? Yes, 10th house in Scorpio, midheaven Scorpio. So, which says to me that it is her destiny to kind of talk about like witchcraft and magic and astrology. Even if that's not something she necessarily believes in, being a super smart and educated Aquarius. It could just be like the way that things turn. Yep, that's Scorpio, 10th house. Scorpio 10th house also kind of talks about like a destiny of being famous, but being famous for something in particular. And then her 11th house, she has Sagittarius. She has 11th house in Sagittarius, also Jupiter in Sagittarius, very lucky. Neptune in Sagittarius. So Neptune, I always say, is like the TV antenna or tuning fork. So whomever pushed her to get on stage for the first time or to join one of these improv groups was probably someone who was a Sagittarius or was in competition with a Sagittarius. Jupiter in Sagittarius is a very common position that I've been seeing throughout this series, because it says that they are very lucky and fortunate. It's Jupiter, Sagittarius' ruling planet. Also, probably very hospitable. Like if you came over to her house, she'd probably have everything on a coaster and a doily. 11th house Sagittarius, also really good friends with Sagittarius, friends with the competition and aggressors. So anybody that, Saturday Night Live, certain music guest or host may not be nice or kind, and I guess she's still able to befriend them in some way. And then also Sagittarius help her cast illusions. So that's her 11th house. And then naturally her 12th house is in Capricorn, meaning that Capricorns make her miserable. And as like a free-loving, futuristic Aquarius, probably like old school capitalism, cutthroat business people probably would make her miserable. Or, Aquarius is like bright and shiny, neon blue, orange. Capricorn is like wearing black and being like a stockbroker, so that probably does make her miserable in some way. I don't know. I want to see what Tina Fey's stuff is, because I know that they worked together. If I'm thinking about the right people, which I might not be thinking. Oh yeah, they had a movie, Baby Mama. So what is her sign? She's like the only person I know to be like a partner. She's from Pennsylvania, Alabama. That's crazy. Never heard of that before. She is a Taurus, so she is not the one that has helped her, or maybe, is in her own way, but she's a Taurus, Virgo, very compatible, both earth signs. But I thought that it would maybe be like Tina Fey or something, but Sagittarius is really good friends for her. Capricorns make her miserable. She is an Aquarius. Spiritual Pisces will help her finances. Grew up around a lot of Aries and Tauruses. Geminis still create limitations for her. Taurus maybe feels like a maternal energy, so maybe Tina Fey reminds her of her mother in some way. Cancers heal her. She's attracted attractive to potentially Leos. Want, wishes, and desires to be a Virgo, is a Virgo, awesome for her. Learns a lot with Libra, probably travels really well with Libra as well, is destined to be more of a Scorpio, secretive into occult magic, tarot, astrology, Scorpio things, is friends with Sagittarius and Capricorn. Cool. So that's Amy Poehler. I guess I thought I would have more to say. The most things that I thought I would have to say is about Paul Rubens for some reason, and him being a Virgo, which I thought was synchronistic. Her birthday is the 16th. 16 is the number of the tower, so that means that her life is probably a lot of like shocking upheavals. Which, I think she was on Saturday Night Live like the early 2000s, where there was a lot of shocking things going on. But she's born in 1971. The Chinese zodiac cycle turned into the pig, a symbol of fortune and honesty. In Chinese culture, the pig is known for its good-natured and easygoing nature. Marks the last animal in the 12-year zodiac cycle. People born in the year of the pig are often seen as symbols of wealth and luck. So I would say that she is like a really good nature. I think her podcast is called Good Talk or Good Chat or something like that. And that's Amy Poehler. Let's see if she has a spouse. As we rush through this, I've been doing these videos more like in public to somewhat like censor myself, so that I'm not dropping like F-bombs and N-bombs throughout my videos. But I still might. Oh yeah, she's in Parks and Recreation. Love that show. I'm sure there's a lot of really great compatible people with her in that. How do you guys feel about? Oh, Will Arnett. Okay, cool. He was from Saturday Night Live or Arrested Development, I believe. Um, there's not a lot of people that I do like the people in their life readings on. I think the last person was like Joe Biden because I was like, who are Joe Biden's parents? Does he have parents? Is he a clone? Um, is he a robot? Let's see, Will Arnett. Will Arnett. Oh, well, you know, and then with her having a Venus, oh, Sun and Taurus. So Will Arnett, Sun, Moon, Saturn, Mercury might be a good partner. Maybe, you know, from working on Saturday Night Live, maybe acted as somewhat of a matchmaker for her. Maybe there's something about Will Arnett that reminds him about her mother is Canadian. So she has a lot of famous friends that are wrapped around her fourth house. So she might have a child with somebody who is a Taurus, like Will Arnett, or fictionally, in a casted illusion in a movie, having a child with Tina Fey as a Taurus. That's very interesting. So thank you so much for listening, sharing, liking, and subscribing, finding your best friend that is a Virgo rising Aquarius, and sending them this video to let them know about how prolific of a comedian that they are going to be, and how close they are to Amy Poehler, and how funny they are, and they should be on Saturday Night Live. Thank you.